this special extended edition of Borough TV, we hear from Port Melbourne Football Club Vice President Glen Robertson. We catch up with front of jumper sponsor George Kamov from Fort Burn. We hear from 175 gamer and newest VFL Life member John Baird, and a special extended interview with Myles Pitt. But first, we hear from our Development League coach Greg Ryan after their disappointing Round 7 loss to Coburg at home.
No, mate, really disappointing, and I'm a little bit shattered because we started so well and had a good side in, but got a bit lazy, I thought.
We talk about a few players dropping back. I think Josh Muelling was one. There were several others. How did they fit back into the side, and I guess their hunger to try and get back their senior spot?
Look, there's no problem with Joshy Muelling. Again, he was best on ground for the development group. I think we've got to keep pushing him up for senior selection through the midfield. I thought Toby Pinwell showed plenty to be back in selection. I thought Shane Valenti was terrific. I think it might have been our bottom 5 or 6 who really let us down a little bit today.
When we talk about the likes of Valenti and Pinwell back in a reserve squad, obviously trying to work their way back to seniors, does it have a noticeable effect on some of those younger players? Do you see their standard lift typically when they have those experienced players back?
Yeah, look, I think we play a better brand of football, but sometimes what it does is they drop off a little bit because they're expecting Shane or Toby to do the work for them. So sometimes it can have the negative effect that I'd prefer, where we're all having a go. But look, it's great to have them back, there's no doubt about that.
I want to talk about one player who didn't play development today because he finally got a senior selection. He'd been putting his hand up for quite a while. Finally, Clay Johnson gets into that starting 23.
Yeah, look, Clay's been a bit unlucky early. He got a shoulder injury. But it's terrific to have him in there because of his enthusiasm, a bit of pace. He's got a few tricks. So I hope he can hold his spot and keep going.
Tough test next week. You're up against Williamstown, and though it doesn't reflect in premierships, when it comes to home and away seasons at reserve level, they've been fairly strong over a number of years. Playing them there before the bye, certainly going to be a big test.
Yeah, no doubt. They'll have some Footscray blokes in their development squad. They'll have a very strong VFL contingent. And today they had a very good win against Bendigo. I'm not sure what their development boys did, but they'll be up and about. And of course, going to Williamstown is always a difficult task for any side.
Coburg's come from behind 9-point victory sees the Borough slip to 5th position on the Development League table, behind the Northern Blues and Frankston on percentage. In the VFL, it's better news. Our 55-point win sees us take top of the table. Best on ground was John Baird in his 175th game, earning him VFL Life membership. Here he is addressing the Borough faithful in the social rooms after the main game.
Yeah, thanks guys. Unique. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
That's a good thing.
Thank you everyone for coming out. 175 games. It's been a long time, obviously. I think that's probably what it says. But the important thing is I think we're back on track footy-wise. I think it's 4 in a row for us. A bit of a rough start to the year. So that's the important thing, and that's the main reason I play, obviously, still play, is to get the wins and have fun with the boys, and we did that today, so we always appreciate all the support and everyone who comes out, and the boys on the hill and all that sort of stuff, so
Earlier in the day, Port Melbourne Football Club Vice President Glen Robertson filled in for Peter Bromley at the President's Luncheon to advise the club's sponsors and supporters of the latest news from the Borough.
Given that this is the Indigenous round in the AFL, and in accordance with that, we do wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet and pay our respects to their elders. And when we speak of elders, I'd also like to acknowledge my former coach here, Gary Bryce, premiership winner, and I think not quite on a cane yet, but pretty close. As well, there's a couple of other players, and Peter's already mentioned them too, Dean Crimes and Jason Love, and in particular George Kamov, who's our front of jumper sponsor. George, thanks once again, mate, for what you do for the club. We do it. I'd especially like to thank one other person here today, our patron, who's not quite here yet. But yes, there he is, thank you. The Honourable Martin Foley, MP, member for Albert Park. And, the reason I mention Martin is that especially he's been very active on the club's behalf with assistance with our development project and also with our efforts to obtain major sponsorship. And look, I've been involved in a couple of those sessions with Martin, and it's great to have his expertise and his assistance to the club. So once again, thanks very much. Good on you. As information regarding our development project, I can inform you and announce that at our last board meeting we agreed to contribute an additional $375,000 to the estimated shortfall of $1.875 million that is now required and due because of the extensive asbestos deposits that have been encountered during excavation. Quite substantial, obviously a challenge for the football club, but with thanks to the AFL and AFL Victoria, particularly Ken Gannon, they've also agreed to contribute another $375,000, with the City of Port Phillip taking up $750,000. It doesn't quite get us to 1.875, but there is a contingency within the original budget for the project which will cover the rest. That's a fairly big chunk for us to have to bite going forward. But as discussions occur at the moment with the council, it looks like we may be able to work through that with the council and pay that off over a period of years, which hopefully won't put too much of a strain on the bank balance going forward. But these days, as you know, times are tight, money's tight, and every ounce of support we get from you good people as supporters and particularly sponsors is much appreciated. Work on levelling and capping of the site over on the Ingle Street side, where you see the development occurring, should start within a week. So, you know, with construction works to commence in around about a month's time. So I want everybody just to cross your fingers and say a silent prayer for us tonight, that the redevelopment really does get underway over the next month, and we can look forward to perhaps this time next year entertaining you in far more salubrious surroundings. The good news about the redevelopment of the visitors' rooms is that's proceeding pretty well. So where you see the old visitors' rooms at the moment, still under construction, they should be finished by the next home game. So things are moving pretty well in that area. Our next project, from a board point of view, is to look at a gymnasium, and we will be addressing that as soon as we possibly can and talking to council regarding an application for that purpose. I don't have a lot more to say other than regarding our team's performance, which, you know, we can take some comfort, I guess, in the results so far. It's been what I would call an indifferent start to the year. Certainly, the players have borne the brunt of a quite disrupted pre-season, but are now gaining the momentum that we've been used to. And our win-loss ratio has been pretty satisfying, particularly over the last month. And certainly a win today against what you could only call as traditional rivals, historically formidable opponents, Coburg. That would be a further boost to our championship claims. I think in the time that I was playing, and that is quite a while ago, it was always an incentive for us when playing Williamstown, Sandringham, Preston or Coburg to get the wood on them. And nothing, I guess, has changed. Coburg apparently are looking to move to a standalone situation for them next year. Lots of luck with that one. It's going to be a very big challenge for them, as it is for all clubs potentially looking at standalone. Look, I know our footy department have been working extremely hard and in overtime to consolidate our efforts on the field, so I'm sure you, as I do, wish them all the very best today. And can I just say in completion, look, thank you all very much for attending. It's great to see you here. It's great that you're sticking with our football club. It's been quite a stressful start to the season, but with the players doing what they do best out on the field, I'm sure we're going to have another successful season. And I just want to take the opportunity to thank you all once again for coming, and thank you very much for your support.
Of course, sponsors play a very big role at the Port Melbourne Football Club, and we were lucky enough to catch up with one of them, George Kamov from Fort Burn Proprietary Limited. They're the company you see on the front of our famous jumper. We asked George how he's enjoying the day at the Borough.
It's been great, absolutely beautiful. The boys are just doing so good. Weather's great, it can't get any better.
Well, we talk about Fort Burn Proprietary Limited, but before we do, and you being the sponsor, your past goes back a long way with Port, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It was back in the early 80s. We had a bit of a crack here, and I was very fortunate. Gary Bryce, the triple premiership coach, gave me an opportunity to be a listed player here for a couple of years, so it was fantastic.
And what was it like, even just being on the training track with some of the legendary names that we know, like Cook and Swan and Anderson?
Oh, look, it just the names are beyond me. I was just come from local Middle Park YCW footy and had a bit of a pre-season with Glennie Evans and Cookie and Biff and Buster Harlan. You name it. It's just the names are endless, and it was fantastic. Great opportunity, great club, and can never forget it.
And how long have you been sponsoring Port Melbourne now? How did that come about with Fort Burn, with the partnership with Port Melbourne?
Well, I would say I did a player sponsorship a couple of years ago, and just because I wanted to come down and be part of it again, and I hadn't been back here for like 20 years, so it had been a long separation, and I drove past one Saturday and the boys were playing. I thought, I've got to go back, got to see it, and then got involved, player sponsorship, and then we thought, well, we're local, we want to give something back. And here we are. Front of jumper is fantastic.
Tell us about Fort Burn Proprietary Limited. What does Fort Burn do?
Okay, Pete. So we're an engineering company. We provide engineers to the aerospace industry. Port Melbourne is a bit of a hub. We've got Boeing and DSTO, local companies who require that sort of expertise, and we just happen to be in that. That's our environment. Holden is another one of our clients where we provide engineering support. That's our core business.
And if people want to find out more about Fort Burn, where can they get some more information?
Yeah, look, we have a good website. There's www.fortburn.com. All our information's on there. There's a link there where you can apply for jobs. You can have a look and see what we do, and if anyone's interested in budding engineers out there who are doing their degree, they're more than welcome to send us an email, ring us and contact us, and we're more than welcome to talk to them.
And George, just quick before we go, what would you say to any other prospective sponsors out there in the Port Melbourne area, the Docklands area as well, that are interested in getting on board with the Borough?
Oh, look, it's a fantastic club. Everything we give is just so well worth it. The club, it's local football, it's local community. I couldn't highly recommend any other avenue of sporting commitment to do what we do with Port. It's fantastic.
And the club certainly thanks Fort Burn Proprietary Limited for their sponsorship. Now on Borough TV, our special interview from the President's Luncheon with injured Port Melbourne star Myles Pitt.
Welcome back. As we always say to the players in here, we wish we didn't have to see you here. We wish you were back out there on the park. Just for those that wanting to know, what's the current state of the injury at the moment?
So I went and saw the surgeon yesterday, and I thought hopefully be playing next week in the twos against Willie for a half, but minor setback, and probably looking at another 2 weeks, I think. So another 2 to 4 weeks they're saying at the moment.
If it's looking good in 2 weeks, are there any thoughts of maybe playing you in the Foxtel Cup game of the G? It's a short-term game.
Well, the aim was to play a half in the twos against Willie, and then hopefully get up for the Foxtel game, but with waiting to turn out, probably not at this stage, I don't think.
You mentioned a stat to me which we wouldn't wish upon anybody. Unfortunately, you missed 6 months of football all up, being on crutches, including if we go back to 2011 in that year.
Yeah, well, in my juniors I was pretty lucky. I didn't really get injured. Then came to the club. First year did my navicular, which is a bony foot you don't really want to do, and then I was 6 months later did my medial. And then I've done another 2 stress fractures in my foot, so 6 months on the crutches since about the club, which isn't ideal, but...
It's a bit of tough luck, but let's rewind back for a moment. Let's go back to the junior days, the Sorrento Sharks. What's your earliest football memory playing on the peninsula?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Sorrento, obviously, and played my juniors there till about under 16s. And I think we played in the grand final every year, which was pretty good. So we had good luck all that age. But then went and played for Stingrays for 4 years. So out down on, it's a bit of a drive up the road, I think.
Fair drive to say the least. But at Sorrento, when did it hit you that you thought, you just didn't want to play football for giggles? You thought, I reckon I'm going pretty okay. I want to have a crack at the top level.
At Sorrento, they get in that league. They get all the Stingray, not recruiters, but the guys that come out and they sort of seek you out, and it's pretty professional. The TAC Cup now, so when you get into those sort of circles, you just you got no choice really. You just got to put your head down and have a go at it.
Do you recall the first time they approached you? I think it would have been for the 16 squad, wouldn't it, at Dandenong to have a trial?
Yeah, well, it's funny. My first game I worked for Stingrays. I thought the game was on a Sunday, so Saturday morning I'm asleep in bed and I get a phone call from the coach, and I was like, oh shit, what's going on here? Mate, where are you? And I was like, oh, you're kidding. Long story short, I got there at half time, didn't get a touch, and didn't really start too well.
Still surprised to be on the list after that. We talk about the professionalism of the TAC Cup and coming through Dandenong and spending 4 years there. Is there much of a club culture at the TAC Cup level? Because unlike here where it's senior football and a guy can play for 1 year or up to 10 years and then spend many years as a volunteer or a coach after with the club, at TAC level it's different. Once you hit 18, 19, that's it. You're gone. You have to go elsewhere. Is it tough to have a culture at a club like that?
Yeah, well, simply put it like at Stingrays, everything's done for you. Like they say, be here at this time and this will all be here for you. And like you're training 4 or 5 times a week and you've got all the facilities in your hand. But when you get to a VFL, it's sort of up to yourself. You've got to do your extra training, and it's all sort of like the boys here are amazing. Like we're so close, such a great group. But at TAC, it's all sort of individualised, and I suppose I definitely have the VFL culture over the TAC.
So let's go through. It's the end of the TAC Cup. Of course, the boys are obviously hoping to get drafted. Unfortunately, you didn't. Do you remember what was going through your head after the draft day has happened? Was it instant? Okay, I'm going to VFL. I'm going to Port Melbourne, or did it just take a while to play out where you were going?
Yeah, well, it's sort of when from Dandenong days, the sort of feeder club's Frankston, and after everything didn't sort of work out with the footy at the end of the year, I think I went to 6 VFL clubs, and just did a training run and just mucked around. And when I came here, I definitely knew this was the club.
I wonder if this is a fair assessment. This is what Gary said about you prior to round 1, 2010 against Gold Coast. He said to the paper, "You're very coachable, wants to learn, and soaks it up." Is that a fair comment?
I don't know about that.
Well, success, as you said, with Sorrento winning those premierships, and then you come along to Port Melbourne. You must have thought it was a great jump. But the first game he plays is round 1, 2010, up at the Gold Coast.
Yeah, it was a bloody good weekend, that one.
I don't say how long you stayed for, but how did you find it when you first played senior football? You debuted in the seniors. Could you instantly show the change of pace, the change of physicality compared to TAC Cup?
Oh yeah, definitely. When you get the step off the ball or something, you get hit, you're playing against a bigger man, that's for sure. But you just got to, when you see Bonners walking around with his shirt off and his jocks, he's a massive man.
How does it feel to be, particularly that first game, when you're a young bloke out there, how does it feel to be around, like, for example, a big unit like Bonners, a professional like Johnny Baird, and someone virtually indestructible like Toby Pinwall?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I don't know, you see Bonners, I just don't know how he bloody runs around. He's 125 kilos. He's a big man, but yeah, they're all professional guys and they're all awesome blokes away from the club as well.
So you're in your first year. What advice is Gary giving to you at this stage as a young bloke running around trying to hold a senior spot in a fairly talented team?
I just said soak it up really, like as you said here. You've got to you see the boys who are successful like your Valentis and your Pingwalls, and he just said at training, like if you can, just run around with them and see where they run and see the work ethic you need. Easy's all about if you put your head down, you'll get the results. So as a young kid, he just said, if you're prepared to work, the results will come.
Prior to that fateful day at Werribee against Williamstown. For you, did it almost feel like walking on water? You're in the 2011 team that just seemed like nobody could touch them.
Yeah, like I was saying this yesterday actually, like at the time you don't realise how lucky you are, but then looking back on that year, you go to a game and you're pretty confident that you're, everyone's going to play well, not many players have an off day. You end up getting through, and I don't know, it didn't really hit me until you get injured and you look back and go, wow, what a year that was.
I just need to ask one question. Was it true that when Paddy Rose won $2,000, he put 1,000 on the bar for the boys? For those that don't know the story, a game against North Ballarat, Paddy Rose has been challenged by one of the coaches. I think it was Andrew Mirams, if I'm right. Yeah, and he's told Paddy Rose, he thinks it's going to be a cold or wet day at North Ballarat, that for every goal that you kick over 6 goals, I'll give you $1,000. Thinking you can't kick 6 goals on a wet, windy day at North Ballarat. Of course, Paddy kicks 8. And luckily for Mirams, he actually gives away to him the goal square. So that means $2,000 total in cash for Paddy Rose. He won through that bet, so $1,000 over the bar. Do you know what he gave the other $1,000 to?
No, I think we came to training and we thought Mirams was talking shit, but anyway, he pulled out the money and paid him off, and I don't know, I don't think Rosie put the money over the bar. I don't think Rosie drinks, that's why.
Well, at least Mirams on the bet, which is great to see. But as you said, we're walking on water, things are going well. The game against Williamstown, the medial ligament, did you know it straight away what had happened?
My best mate at the club fell across me, Cal Sinclair, who's obviously at West Coast now. He went up for a mark and fell across me, but it was funny. We went home that night and we were sitting on the couch, and because the game was televised, I said, I wonder how it happened, and I was sitting next to him, and we recorded the game, and we were looking through it, and they just see a big fella come across. Yeah, that was alright. It was only a few weeks out, not an ideal part of the year, but...
And you've also shared everyone's frustration on that day of not seeing the final 2 or 3 minutes of the game, courtesy of the ABC. So, great. We want to know what's going through your head. We've spoken to Corey McGrath, Toby Pinnell, Shane Valenti about their feelings on grand final day. For you, it's different. You've been part of the squad, but you're not out there that day. Do you recall what's going through your mind, how it feels having to sit in the stands and watch on?
You just want the boys to obviously win and play well, and you can say like you're a part of it, but if you're not one of those 22 playing, you're unfortunately not. And it's obviously tough, hard watching because you're it's the pinnacle of the game. You just want to continue win the flag. When you don't, it's tough. But at the end of the day, the club won a flag, and that's what we're here for. So that was great.
And of course, everyone that put on a Borough jumper is part of the premiership. Let me say that they all work to get the team there. 2012, it must have seemed like what's going on. You lose about 8 blokes, and was it 28 games in a row? It wasn't until that game against Coburg when you got beat. Were you confident that year? Were you thinking the body's feeling good? It looks like this could be the year to get the premiership medal.
Yeah, well, it was obviously not as successful year as the year before in the way of wins, but I think we like the same as this year. We're all pretty confident that we can certainly give it a nudge again. So this is such a successful club. You just come in here and easy wants everyone to get the best out of themselves, and I think that's sort of shown with the win-loss ratio.
Can I talk about one subject now? I understand if you don't want to answer because it's a very tough subject. Heading into preliminary final week last year, you get the awful news about your cousin. Do you remember the call? Could you remember anything from that week of what was going through your mind? Was it a blur?
Yeah, well, obviously Johnny is my best mate, and I lived with him for 4 years. We grew up together. Our houses were next door to each other, and we pretty much spoke every day. And then when you get that sort of news coming, it sort of fades and makes footy look like everything just fails into significance really. So it was definitely a tough time, and it's still tough. Like the family's obviously still going through a lot of grief, and going back home it's sort of tough because everyone back home is still mourning definitely, and it's one of those things you can't really. There's no right formula to get through it. But it's obviously kept that stuff pretty close with how it all came about.
Do you recall for yourself the messages of support you got from, I think, Gary and those around the club and your loved ones coming into that? What's a tough time where you obviously want to mourn, but you've got possibly the biggest day of your life coming up with the grand final?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like the sport was overwhelming, and you can't really repay that in any way. Everyone was so good. But yeah, at the time, like looking back, it's pretty hard to have a clear head when you got all that stuff. Like I had Johnny's funeral on Thursday, and then we had training on Friday, and then the grand final on the Sunday. So it was definitely a full-on week. But yeah, it'd be good if you could sort of split it all up. But it all sort of it's pretty tough going into it all, I suppose.
So let's look ahead. 2013, you're now getting your body right and trying to get back onto the track. Has he sat down with you and explained how he sees your role coming into this season? Because, may I say, the forward line's been going pretty well. Josh Kipione's particularly stepped up this year at half forward. Galea, permanent full forward. Because of the extra ruckman now, Bonners is now camped permanently in the forward line. Has your role been tweaked, or have you been told, okay, you're going to be moving to a flank, maybe a wing?
Yeah, I think Easy was, well, you did have a chat at the start of the year, sort of where he sees me. Sort of a swing again, I think. If you see the team at the moment, you've got like Ryan Gale playing up forward, who's always been down back. I think Easy at the moment is just trying to get the team so flexible so that when we do have players coming back from injury like Tobes and Shano now, you can just push the players around. I don't think there's really any player in our team now that can't sort of play 2 or 3 positions. Like you even see Plum going down forward now, and I think Easy's just loving throwing everyone around. So as long as you're fit and you're in form in the twos, you play no matter who you are. So it doesn't really have a set role. You just get your body right and work out from there.
Well, let's hope you're working your way towards that 2013 premiership. Just before we let you go, is the fire still there in the belly? Is the aspiration still there to play at the top level, particularly not only with Robert Nahas playing, of course, with Richmond, but now we see Sammy Dwyer doing so well at Collingwood?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I suppose everyone at this like one level back in the VFL have always got that dream of having played at the top level. They'd love a chance, and yeah, you can see now with Kano's pretty much packing bags, I think. There's obviously there's a desire definitely, but you've got to put a lot of good footy together.
And out of interest, if you were allowed to pick the club to go to, what club would you pick? And would you pick it because A, you've supported them, or B, you think you'd be the best fit at that club?
Oh, you'd take anything, I think. Yeah, you don't know. Oh, you wouldn't care.
Well, Pitty, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon during the President's Luncheon. We wish you all the best of luck. We look forward to seeing you back out there on the back.
That concludes Borough TV for this week. We hope to see you Sunday, 2nd of June at Burbank Oval in Williamstown for the top of the table VFL clash. The Seagulls versus the Borough.
Borough TV is a Port Melbourne Football Club production.